A lot sure can change in just 2 years. Black Ops 4, like the rest of the Call of Duty games, really doesn't need much of an introduction. We all know what it is by now, let's be real. It was one of the most successful games in the series this gen, and it had a pretty great launch on PC considering Call of Duty's move from Steam to Battle.net. But that was back then in 2018. A lot has changed since then in ways I wish it didn't. Revisiting it now in 2020, Black Ops 4 on PC kinda feels like a ghost town. I wasn't exactly expecting much heading in, since the PC versions of COD usually have lower player counts compared to their console counterparts. If you look on Steam charts, it shows that outside of a few games, most people don't tend to stick around for very long. I did expect things to be a bit different this time though, mostly for its successful launch, but also because it was given out into Humble Monthly like for Call of World War II. And that game still seems to be relatively active despite being a year older. Now that's not to say this game is really dead, as there definitely is a hardcore community of Day 1 veterans that seem to have stuck around. But from my experience, Team Deathmatch was the only playlist that seemed to be active. All others at the time of recording I just couldn't find a game for. It's pretty standard for COD on PC unfortunately. Whenever the newest release starts to hemorrhage players, everyone falls back to playing just Team Deathmatch. And there's of course other factors to keep in mind like when people are going to be playing the game. If you're on the West Coast, you aren't exactly going to find a full lobby at 7 in the morning on a weekday, at least compared to consoles of course. But even on a weekend, modes like the Battle Royale were basically dead in the water. It didn't really matter when I tried to play it or what playlist I was in, I just couldn't find a lobby no matter what. I guess it's not that shocking since Warzone has all but replaced it, but it still hurts a bit knowing that about a third of this game's content is basically no longer playable. Admittedly, I didn't spend much time playing zombies. I was never really a huge fan of that mode after Black Ops 1, but I didn't really have much luck finding a match there either. Still, it's at the very least playable solo as always. That's thankfully the saving grace about this version. There's still at least some content that's playable solo. Outside of zombies, there's a specialist HQ, where you can play some matches against bots and get some backstory for the multiplayer characters. And while I don't have any footage, there do seem to be options for bots in custom games like other titles in the series. It's definitely useful for trying out certain modes that would otherwise be dead, and there's a lot of fun to be had with the tweaks to combat made in this game. Still, the fun only lasts for so long when playing against bots. It never really matches the unpredictable nature of playing games online against other people, even when that means stomping or getting stomped on in a public match. And that's kind of the sad part about Black Ops 4. It's a fun game, but it's not impossible to suggest playing on PC nowadays. It has tons of advantages over the console versions, but those don't really matter when there's almost no one left to play with you in comparison. With Activision still selling this game at full price and a third of the game's content is basically unplayable, I'm not quite sure why anyone would bother dedicating nearly 150 gigabytes of it on their PC. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there is a completionist out there that could grab a copy for cheap, or is just fine reinstalling it and playing it with only bots. I'll leave that up to you to decide whether or not it's really worth it.